Good evening, everyone. I call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda tonight is announcements. The regular council meeting scheduled for March 27th has been rescheduled to Monday, March 20th at 6:30 p.m. So we'll see everyone right back here in the council chambers next week, Monday. The Park and Rec Committee, previously scheduled on March 20th, will now be held on March 27th. The City Council will also hold a workshop on Monday, March 20th at 5 p.m. to review a sketch plat for a proposed development downtown by Monarch LLC. Additionally, on Monday, March 20th at 5:45, the city will host a training on open meeting law and data practices for council members, planning commissioners, and members of the Senior Advisory Committee and the Park and Rec Committee. All members of the City Council, all meetings of the City Council are open to the public and held in the council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. If you're interested in speaking at a council meeting, we encourage you to contact our city clerk for more information. In other announcements, registration is now open for our annual Citizens Academy. This is a free 5-week program, which is a great way to get inside an hands-on look at how the city operates. The Citizens Academy starts next month on Thursday, April 6th. We're also accepting nominations for our Community Builder Award. Each year in June, the city recognizes an individual, group, business, or an organization that has, through their outstanding volunteerism or exemplary action, demonstrated an extraordinary commitment to making Victoria a better place today and for the future. Nominations are due on March 31st. Please contact our Communications and Public Engagement Manager, Kendra Grawl, with any questions or if you need information about the program. There are no proclamations this evening, so with that, our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, can I get a motion to adopt the final agenda?
I'll make a motion to adopt the final agenda.
We've got a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item, which is the open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda and not an application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. No one has registered in advance to speak, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing no one, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine, administrative, and don't require deliberation, or are considered housekeeping items required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent items?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Council, is there anyone on council who wishes to pull an item off the consent agenda? And anyone in the audience wishing to pull an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will consider a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Motion to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to our regular agenda. The first item on our agenda, 6.1, is appointments to our citizen advisory boards. We did not receive any applications for our citizen advisory committee, so we'll only be making appointments for Planning Commission and Park and Rec Committee this evening. Council, and for those of you who have just joined us, we conducted interviews at our workshop this evening, but we have not yet deliberated. Council, I'd like to dive right in and discuss appointments that need to be made this evening, so let's start with the Planning Commission. With the recent interview and appointment of Eric Ream as an alternate, again in late October, as a full voting member of the Planning Commission to fill the remaining seat vacated by Terry Schwarting, we did waive Eric's interview, but we will still consider him a candidate for the seat he is currently holding. With that, Eric's been thoughtful in his comments and comes prepared to discuss the topics at hand. And so I would move to appoint Eric Ream to a 3-year term and then open the floor for discussion for appointments to the other 3-year term and the 1-year term. Can I get a second on that?
I would second. Second, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to give that to Councilmember Evansky. All right. We have a motion, and can I get a second? Oh, no, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, council, I'd like to open the floor now for discussion for the 3-year, for the Planning Commission appointments. We have filled one of our terms with Eric Ream, and he will complete a 3-year term. Is that correct, Ms. Hardy?
Correct.
He's in the process of a 3-year term, and we will. Okay, tell me.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So Terry Schwarting, his seat would be currently up.
All right.
And so he vacated his seat in October of last year. And so you appointed Eric to fill that from October to this end of March. And then he will be reapplying for a new 3-year term.
So he has been we have made the motion to appoint him to a new 3-year term.
Correct.
And we have one more 3-year term and a 1-year term to fill.
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct.
Okay, perfect. So we are looking for appointments for commissioners to a 3-year term and a 1-year appointment. Council, I open up the floor now for discussion. Thoughts? We had some really awesome interviews. Everybody that came before us is awesome and qualified. So we can't make a wrong decision here, but if there's anybody who kind of rises to the top, I'd entertain who that would be.
I'll start.
Yeah, Councilmember Gunderson, please.
My top for the 3-year would be Christopher Ordone.
Okay.
Am I saying that correctly?
Christopher?
Yeah.
I would concur.
Okay,
That's who I had.
right. Terrific. I like Chris as well.
I'll share Councilmember Gunderson and Councilmember Roberts' recommendation.
Okay. I think we have consensus on appointing Chris Ordone. We're going to go with that. Chris, you can correct it. Is it Ordone? Ordone. Okay.
You have to have that Louisiana.
We got 3
You
years.
gotta get that
We got 3
Louisiana.
years to get this right.
Yeah.
Chris. All right. So Chris Ordone to a 3-year appointment on the Planning Commission, and then we have a 1-year term to fill. And council, does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I had Ben.
Yeah, I'd like Ben as well. I think he brings great experience. So I would concur with Ben. Council? Other thoughts?
My choice for the second would be to appoint Commissioner Moore for that 1-year term.
Okay.
But then, not saying that we have seemingly consensus on it, my choice beyond that would be Ben.
Councilmember Wright.
I actually had Laura commit more as well in that role.
All right, we're going to need a tiebreaker, or we're going to need a motion, gentlemen?
I'd say Ben.
All right. Will you want to make that motion, Councilmember Gunderson?
Where's the last
It's on the screen.
name? Name's not there.
Oh,
I don't have it in front.
Ben Sikora.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to appoint Ben Sikora to a 1-year term to the Planning Commission.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Did we do it for Chris though? We didn't do a.
Yeah, you don't know if you, I didn't hear the
I don't think we did a motion. I think
Okay,
we just
let's do-
we agreed.
Okay. Do you want a separate motion for that, or do we want it all together?
We could do it all together,
Okay.
but just the appointments.
Okay, so what we're looking for is a motion to appoint a 3-year term, to appoint Eric Ream to a 3-year term to the Planning Commission, to appoint Christopher Ordone to a 3-year term to the Planning Commission, and to appoint Ben Sikora to a 1-year term to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Well, let's,
Motion.
yeah.
I'll motion.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
So moved by Councilmember Roberts, a second by Councilmember Gunderson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Council, typically we have appointed folks to kind of serve as an on-deck position as well. This would be a great time to consider appointing Laura and Mike to an on-deck position. What happens in that case is if we have a planning commission member who resigns in midterm, there's already folks who are sort of on deck and ready to fill in behind.
Was this be in addition, right, to our alternates that we just appointed?
So do we have alternates appointed currently, Ms. Hardy?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. You did place as part of your alternate interview that was conducted, I believe, in January, time's flying. You did appoint three, so you have three planning alternate seats that are filled. What would happen if you appointed somebody on deck today, if a full voting member position would open up, alternate 1 would move there. Then alternate 2 would move to 1, 3 would move to 2, and then your on-deck people would start filling in those alternate roles. So does that make sense? Did I explain that?
It does.
Okay.
Ms. Hardy, is it overkill to assume that we would want these two folks to serve as an on-deck position, and then they would be called, at the time that an opening would occur, they would be called and they would be asked if they would like to fill that position, correct?
That is correct. So council, mayor, members of the council, just for a little bit for the public's benefit, to the on-deck position, what that does by placing them on deck, you already have people who have applied, who have gone through the interview process. So should an opening happen midterm, you don't have to repost, advertise, and go through those interviews because you have qualified applicants who are interested and willing to serve. You've gone through that process. And so there certainly is a benefit. This last time we did the alternate, this last time we had a lot of people move out of the city, and so we burned through a lot of movement on the Planning Commission. And so if that pattern were to continue, we certainly would benefit from pointing people on deck.
Do we need a motion to do so?
Mayor, members of the council, I think it would be helpful to have a motion, although I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to defer to our attorney on that.
Attorney Vos, what's your
Mayor and council, the manager has it right. I mean, there's no law that provides for or prohibits having on-deck folks for your planning commission. So there is no legally required answer to that.
All right, and then, so let's do that. Let's, with consensus from the council, let's put Laura Moore and Mike DeYoung on deck, and they will be called to see if they want to fill those alternate positions as they are occurred. Is that agreeable to council?
I'm supportive of that, Mayor.
All right, perfect.
Mayor, members of council?
Yes.
Just a clarification question. Is that the order that you wish to appoint them on deck?
Let's put Ms. Moore first and Mr. DeYoung second.
Thank you.
Agreeable? Terrific. Thank you. All right. Moving on to the next one, let's go to our Park and Rec Committee members. We have 7 candidates to fill 2 positions here. Is that correct, Ms. Hardy?
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct.
All right. Again, we've had some fantastic applicants for our Park and Rec Committee. Council, I open for discussion for you to share with me who has floated to the top for you.
I'll start, Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Ivansky.
I think at the risk of sounding repetitive, Victoria is lucky to have so many people that want to engage with this community and volunteer. And everybody who's sitting at the dais is living proof of that. And it's great to have people who are excited to want to join this team. And in that vein, my pick for the Park and Rec was I'm supportive of Amanda Cahill as a candidate, and followed by Greg McCurry.
Greg McCurry and Amanda Cahill.
That was my top 2.
Oh, terrific. Councilmember Roberts, those are his top choices as well.
That is my
Councilmember Rife.
top 2 as well.
Oh, well, here we are with consensus. Councilmember Gunderson, anything to add? All right. With that, I will entertain a motion to appoint Amanda Cahill to a 3-year term on the Park and Rec Committee, and Greg McCurry to a 3-year term on the Park and Rec Committee.
I'll start again, Mayor. I'll make a motion to appoint Amanda Cahill to a 3-year term to the Park and Recs Committee, and appoint Greg McCurry to a 1-year term on the Park and Rec Committee.
Fantastic. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Oh,
Or is
yes,
the motion
Ms. Hardy.
incorrect? Are they both 3-year
Both
terms?
3-year terms.
Okay, then I'll amend
Okay.
that proposed motion by striking the 1-year term for Mr. McCurry to appoint Greg McCurry to a 3-year term to the Parks and Rec Committee.
Perfect. Thank you. Did you capture that, Claudia?
Yes, I did.
All right, perfect. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we want to also take a look at some on-deck positions here, I think, as well. We have, again, amazing candidates. Do we have alternates currently filling positions? Can you tell us a little bit about that, Ms. Hardy?
Mayor, members of the council, I'm kind of looking at Ann out of the corner of my eye here too. So we do not have any alternates, and I don't believe the makeup of our committee currently identifies alternates. So we have,
Oh, okay.
we've done the on deck.
Okay, so do we have any sitting in the next up seats? All right. So I think it would be wise for us, what do we got here? We have 5 other candidates. Is 5 too many? Do we want to?
Well, we appointed Mike to on deck for planning,
We did.
so I would
Take him out of it.
maybe leave him on that one. I'd offer up Kyle and Alexander as the top 2 on deck, just to give us some.
Terrific.
They'd be my next 2, yeah, I agree.
All right.
I share Councilmember Gunderson's.
Councilmember Reif? Okay. Yeah, Ms. Hardy, please.
Mayor, members of the council, sorry. Just confirming with our Park and Rec director that we do have a current opening for a 1-year student term. And Kyle would meet the qualifications for that, although you didn't specifically apply for the student opening. I would offer that up to council and to Kyle for consideration.
I think that is a fantastic idea. Kyle, if you are agreeable to that?
I would be very agreeable, seeing how when I plan to graduate, I plan to go to UW-Madison, so just having that option open to me would be great.
All right, terrific. So with that, then let's, I will consider a motion to make that appointment to our, of Kyle Umel, is that the correct way? Pronunciation, to our student Park and Rec Committee position.
Second.
Okay, I made that motion. We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, then we have Alex Flash, Brian Vincent, and Claudio Groppetti as our, what did you call them? We call them on deck. You call them up next, in the wings, ready to go. So we've got those 3 there. So again, do we need to make we don't need to make a motion, but we do need to have some consensus on that, right?
And Mayor,
Ms.
members
Hardy.
of the council, thank you. I would also add that the order that you would like to see that progression would be helpful.
All right, terrific. Council, thoughts?
I had Alex first too, so Alex, maybe Brian, and then Claudio.
Sounds great. Is that agreeable to the council? Alex Flash, Brian Vincent, Claudio Groppetti, on deck in that order.
Agree.
We have consensus on that. Claudia, you've got that captured. Yes, I do. Fantastic. I think we are moving on. Again, thank you to these fantastic candidates, to all the people who apply to fill these positions. We could not be more grateful for your volunteerism to the city. All right, clunky though it was, we are all set. Let's move on to the next item. Item 6.2, ordering the improvements for Downtown West Phase 1, presenting this evening City Engineer Kara Guerin. Ms. Guerin, welcome.
members of the City Council. This is just a continuation of a conversation we had at the February 13th City Council meeting. So as part of the executed development agreement with the Marco McLean Group for the apartment building on the 13.5 acres, the city did agree to, or the developer, I should say, agreed to being assessed for a portion of those improvements. So on February 13th, the City Council adopted a feasibility study that provides for that. We then noticed them and the property owner whose property they're purchasing of the hearing tonight. These are statutorily required steps in the assessment process. So the council needs to hold a public hearing and then consider a resolution ordering the improvement that eventually the council would approve a contract for when we are ready for that step. But this is just the next step in the special assessment process.
All right.
This motion does require a supermajority to be approved, so 4/5.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Ms. Guerin. This is a public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the item? And one more time. Last chance. Seeing no more speakers, I will now close the public hearing. Council, I will now open the floor for discussion. Any questions, comments on the item before us? Seeing none, Council, this does require a 4/5 vote, as Ms. Guerin mentioned, so I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt resolution ordering the improvement.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item, 6.3, is our Brookmore final plat. Presenting this evening is our consulting city planner, Nathan First. There it is.
Got it right. Thank you.
Mr. First, how are you this evening?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Presenting the final plat and PUD request for Brookmore, and bear with me as I bring this presentation up.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, that's me. Disoriented by the mouse here. There we go. All right, so this is the Brookmore second edition final plat that is in front of us. I'll talk a little bit in more detail about the request here. So just as an overview of the property, I'm sure that most are familiar with the location, but we're looking at the project site that's southeast of Highway 5 and Highway 13. The overall development site is approximately 34 acres. About 25 or 26 of those are developable. In total, this development was approved at 80 single-family homes. Currently, the zoning on the undeveloped half of this property is ag. The request is to rezone the remaining portion of this project to a PUD with an R1 underlying zoning. This would have been done at the first step of the process, but the way that the property ownership kind of happened here, they simply did not extend the PUD to the full extent of the project in that first edition. So that's why they're coming in with this request. So a little cheeky, but you are here. So this is the final plat, and as a refresher for everyone, during the preliminary plat or the preliminary plat process, we really reviewed a lot of the substance of this development, and at this stage, as a refresher, simply reviewing the final details of this development and looking at the development agreement. So the history of this, just over a year ago, this project went through a sketch plat and neighborhood meeting. Following that, in May of 22, the preliminary plat for this entire development was approved, and then the first edition final plat came in September of 2022. So on the screen in front of you is what was approved for the preliminary plat, again, May of 2022. You'll notice all 80 of those units in front of you. Several outlots in this development. One, outlot A, would be a city park. Outlots E and C and D are for either conservation or stormwater management purposes. And then this is what the final product looked like. You'll remember some discussion about Cochilla Lane and slowing some of the traffic speeds there. So the developer has subject to their preliminary plat approval, come back in with an acceptable design, which was approved during the final plat of the first edition in last September. So here's the final plat of the first edition, and again, approved last year. And here is the second edition final plat that is in front of us this evening. This is for about half of the remaining development. The second half of the remaining development to the east of this would be, that is imagined to come in phase 3. So initially the developer was planning to bring it all in one phase, but given the market conditions, they've kind of cut that down a little bit. I should mention that that final plat is consistent with everything that the city was expecting from the developer, including the requested deviations that are going to be established in this PUD. Again, these deviations that are requested here are the same exact ones that were approved in the first edition and in the preliminary plat. And you can see a comparison of surrounding development on the bottom of this slide. So in terms of planning and zoning review at this stage, we're still looking at a number of different things just to make sure that they're consistent with what was approved, looking at the density, the landscaping proposed in the final landscaping plan, buffers and berms, parks and parkland dedication, and then trails and sidewalks. So again, from a planning perspective, those things are all consistent with the initial approval and then the final plans that have been submitted. Engineering review has been done to this as well. Looking at the final plat and construction plans, city engineer is reviewing for things like grading, drainage and erosion, streets, utilities, landscaping, those types of infrastructure and grading improvements. And a city engineer review memo was provided in the packet and to the developer. So again, this is the final landscaping plan that was reviewed, and staff have worked through some of those final details with the developer. The conditions of the preliminary plat approval are on the screen now. There are 12 of them, mostly routine. I've highlighted the 3 that were a little bit more unique to this project. All 3 of those more unique conditions have been addressed or are in the process of being addressed through this approval. So staff's recommendation is that since this final plat is generally consistent with the approved preliminary plat and those conditions of the preliminary plat have been met, we are proposing, or suggesting rather, that the City Council approve with conditions that you see on the screen here and were provided in the staff report. These conditions are more or less seen as more standard type conditions of the development at this stage. I should also mention that a public hearing was noticed and held at the Planning Commission for the PUD side of this request, and so the Planning Commission did have a chance to review that, found it to be consistent, and unanimously recommended this project in front of you this evening to the City Council for approval. So with all of that being said, we have 3 sample motions for you for 3 distinct actions. I'm happy to take questions at this time that you have.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. First. Council, questions? Looks like we are all in good shape.
I believe so, Mayor.
What's that?
I believe so.
Fantastic. All right. With that, Council, I will entertain a motion. We're going to adopt 3 separate motions here, and so I will entertain the first of 3 motions.
Motion to adopt resolution approving final plat and PUD for Brookmore second edition with findings and conditions as presented and discussed.
Thank you, Councilmember Roberts. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. I will entertain the second motion, please.
A motion to
To adopt ordinance 459 ZC approving rezoning from ag to PUD.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Ivansky. Can I get a second?
second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And the final.
Motion to adopt resolution authorizing summary publication of ordinance 459 ZC.
Thank you, Councilmember Reif. Can I get a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Council, there are no more items on our regular agenda this evening, so with that, we'll move on to the reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vos, you are up first. Anything from you?
You know, Mayor, of course, the legislature is hot and heavy. THC, there was an update today. I didn't read it carefully enough to give you a report on it, but I know there's been some movement on that. And of course, we've got bonding projects that are in play, and legislature is working hard in committees and processing that through. So nothing particular to note to you, but I'm trying to keep an eye on things.
And approaching their first deadline, actually.
That's correct.
All right, terrific, thank you. Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing from staff this evening.
And council members, anything from council this evening?
No, just wanted to follow up with Bob.
Councilmember Gunderson, please.
We just had some questions that we're trying to get clarity around when it comes to bonding projects. Is it, when it's the 2-year biennium, is the money for those, just those 2 years, or is it that amount, a set amount for each year of the biennium? So if it's $3 million in the bill, that for the biennium it's $3 million for 2 years, or is it $3 million first year, $3 million second year? Just trying to put some numbers.
Councilmember, the honest answer is I don't know the answer to that question. I think that it is not confined to a particular year, the expenditure of that money, but if you want to know the answer to that for real, let me check and get back to you.
Okay.
I think we do want to know the answer for real.
Very good. Duly noted, Mayor.
Thank you, Attorney Bose. All right, anything else from council?
Mayor, I'd just like to
Councilmember Evansky, please.
just put out some informative information for council and the public at large that both you and I attended the League of Minnesota Cities Elected Leaders Training this past weekend, not this past week, the weekend before in Alexandria, and I just wanted to point out that it was an excellent experience. I learned a great deal. We were able to meet our contemporaries throughout the state in various size cities, and the league did a phenomenal job of presenting a multitude of topics, and I think that it's important that the public knows that the city is committed to training us as leaders to bring a better quality of life for our citizens, and these are some of the opportunities that have been made available to us, and to me it was money well spent.
Awesome, I concur. Yes, it was great training indeed. All right, and then anything else from council?
Just
Yeah,
one
Councilmember
thing.
Rife, please.
One thing. Madam Mayor, the plowing has been excellent in the neighborhoods. The streets are top-notch. So I just wanted to shout out to the team. It's excellent.
Yeah.
So, and I've heard that from a number of people.
Thank you to our Public Works team who is working really, really hard on that. There is not a lot of place for that snow to go anymore. So let's pray for a nice slow melt so we don't have a bunch of flooding. And then the last thing that I would add is kind of along the same vein is we have been down to the legislature to talk and lobby for bonding money for 82nd Street and Highway 5 on behalf of the citizens of Victoria. Having sat in that traffic on Highway 5 again today, it is desperately, desperately needed. And so we will continue to work on behalf of our citizens to get that bonding approved. And I want to just publicly thank Senator Coleman, Representative Nash, and Representative Ream for carrying those bills for us. With that, council, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.